Okay.
Hi, y'all.
Welcome.
Welcome to Unplugged.
Where we get crazy.
Go crazy kids. Do some crazy. Just kidding. We really don't do anything.
We're not that crazy. We like to pretend that we are.
Yeah.
Crazy in the mind.
Wingardium Leviosa.
We just watched Harry Potter for the first time.
Yeah, we had a marathon.
It was great. We watched one at a time.
We watched over a span of 7 days. We only watched.
I don't know what movie marathons you go to, but
Since we're ready, don't watch movies. So that's
yeah, I don't either. So we finally watched them
Oh, by the way, if you're watching this video, you will see we're together.
in person. Sitting on a couch. We've actually already recorded this intro, but we were sitting wildly close.
So we're trying it again.
We were trying again.
And today we just kind of want to give you a life update because it's been a while. Lots unfolded.
A lot. Is there like a season that's happening with the moon? Is it eclipse season still?
It is. I don't know still.
Stop
I just
it.
know
It was.
And I was like, hold on, because I go through breakups every time there's an eclipse. And it's fine.
It was okay. You made it through. Welcome.
We made it through.
We'll see.
We'll see.
So
Hold on, hope.
but a lot has happened. There's been, I think, a lot of life updates, a lot of like earthly updates.
Yeah.
Earthly things have happened.
The human form is going through humanness.
Yeah, life is lifing in a good way. I think. I mean, we can just get right into it.
Yeah. Go.
But I think, for me, like this season has been so much duality in a way that it hasn't been before. I think a lot of the time, maybe when I've talked about duality in the past, I've talked about the shadow side of duality. I feel like that's kind of when it comes up. Yeah. And for me this time, it's been really interesting because there's been so much good that's happened in the midst of so many massively destructive, sad and terrible things as well. Yeah. And it's been really interesting to be in a season of celebration because, surprise, I'm engaged. We got engaged recently.
For so long, and that was the hardest secret.
Wait, how did you know?
Because Nolan, when you guys came to visit us for Ed Milet or whatever, when we saw him, he asked Eddie for locations and things.
And Eddie told you?
And Eddie told me.
And you kept it from me?
Well, he had asked Eddie, being like, hey, have Laura mentioned anything about Stef saying something? And Eddie, of course, yes, yes, I have. And he was like, no, she has not. So he asked
but you knew
and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
So that I knew. And
you knew that he was going to propose in Spain?
Yeah.
So when I was like,
I think it's going to be in Spain, I was like, interesting. It's very peculiar.
I can't remember your response being that weird.
No, because I'm a natural born engagement keeper. Keeper of the stones.
Keeper of the stones, yes.
Yep. Anyways, how do you feel?
I feel good. I feel happy. I think it's now like finally setting in. I think once you guys leave, especially, once you get the fuck out of here. Yeah, just kidding. But we've been go. Like we were on our trip. We got engaged in like the first 3 days of our trip. And then we had like 2 more weeks of travel where we were just like back to back to back to back to back. And then we came home. We had 2 days and then I got sick for a week. So I was just like dead to the world. Then once I got better, yeah, I'm done. I just go into hibernation. And then I got better. And then the hurricanes happened. And then Nolan's parents came. You guys came. We hosted a massive party in our house. And so I feel like it's just now settling because one of the things when we got engaged was that for me, it didn't, like, it's one moment in time, which I think you'll never forget. But how my energy works is I feel like something happens and then it takes my energy a second to calibrate to it. And so I feel like I've been like integrating it for a few weeks. And now that we're actually home and together and like in our life again, there's more just integration that happens. But it's definitely been a deepening of commitment. Like,
yeah. What do you
in
feel
so
with
many
the
ways.
deepening?
I think it's like we're here and we're doing this. And if you guys have listened to any of the podcasts previously, like commitment and marriage has always been a little bit of a layered thing for me that brings up a lot of vulnerability and like a lot of, there's a part of my heart that always wants to just keep myself separate from this like merging of souls that inevitably happens when you entertain the ideas of marriage and you go into that like really, really deep unity. And I've always known that our relationship is not going anywhere, but just that full commitment of like, it's you and me and we're doing it. There was a massive relaxation that happened when I got engaged of like, okay, like we're not going anywhere. Cause there was always that part of myself that was like, oh, but maybe I shouldn't. And that wasn't, people would be like, oh my God, is that your intuition? Like, it was not my intuition. It was definitely like, is my ego running the show and trying to protect me. But there was a huge relaxation. And through the relaxation, when you're both feet all the way in, it's like letting yourself be fully seen by another person. So how we navigate conflict is different. How we navigate family things is different. How like our intimacy is different. Like everything I feel like has deepened, and it makes me really excited for then also getting married, because I can't even imagine like the deepening. Like it's crazy. Like
it's again going back to kind of what we were talking about in the car, where it's like, when you don't have split energy, it's like, this is ours. This is literally the deepest commitment. I am yours, you are mine. How deep can we go in this? There's no other option than navigating it, walking through it together, doing it without this fear of like, well, you know, what's up? What else is out there?
Something could change.
Something could change. Something could be less. And obviously there's life, like things like that. But at the end of the day, it's really sitting there being like, oh no, I'm in. I'm
all in. And it allowed me. And some people might just go into a relationship thinking this way. I think you're a little bit more prone to like think, what's our vision together? Just how you are, because that's where your brain goes. But my brain really never went to what is our vision together, which was wild. And before we left for our trip, I got to spend a couple of weeks with my mom, or not a couple of weeks, a few days in Colorado with her. And I was just asking her, like, it was just this beautiful time to really be woman to woman with her for a little bit and be without Nolan, without like anyone else, just her. And I was like, what changes when you get engaged? And she was like, well, you go into like, what's your vision together? And really building that. You know, of course you can have ideas before, but when there is that, you know, on some level, there is some uncertainty, like someone can make a decision at some point. You know, I never fully thought, like, what is our vision together? Like, yes, we've been merging over time, especially in comparison to when we first got together. But now it's really like, okay, like, we're here. And especially if we want to have a family in the future, what is our vision? And how can we bring them together? Because a vision that's held by two or more people is the strongest possible vision out there. So lots have been shifting on that front. Like, lots of ideas, lots of like
surrendering and trust on your end too, because it's not that natural. Like, he has said it since he met you, right? And it's like you stepping into that of like safety, like a new level of safety, but that has nothing to do with him. It's you. How can you find safety in that, which is your internal
that wild
dialogue.
It's the internal, and it's so much, it's such a beautiful reflection, because I think the first layer is, oh, I'm safe in this relationship. Like, I'm safe to be loved, I'm safe to be led, I'm safe to merge my vision with someone else and to be held. But then the deeper layer beyond that is like, wait, the safety within myself, because there's always an element of uncertainty when you surrender to also incorporating someone else's vision as well. Like that collaboration, like you have to surrender some of your needs and they have to surrender some of theirs. There's always an element of uncertainty because you can't control anything that happens. You can't control the other person. You can't do any of that. You can, like, I know Nolan's intentions all the way deep down into his heart and his loyalty, but you still, there's that little kernel where you never actually know. But the deeper layer then is like, well, am I safe with, I'm always safe within myself. Like that's the truth of it. And that's the place that you have to get to in order to fully surrender, which has been quite the trip.
I think that's a journey everyone has to go on. A lot of us are sitting here being like, I don't trust them. I don't trust this. I don't trust that one. Really, it's just the projections of we're the first products of divorce culture and things of that nature. And it all comes down to, but do you trust yourself to always figure it out? And always like leaving with love and leading with love and being able to hold that in love. At least that's what I found. That's why I can come into relationships and be like, I'm in it like it's marriage until it's not. Simply because it's like, I trust me, I trust I will leave, and I trust I'll pick it up, and I'll trust these things. And I think that's the most beautiful journey for any soul to go on. But it's beautiful to go on even more so when you have someone to be safe within that journey.
Yeah.
Like you have
It's such a blessing.
pillar,
Mm-hmm.
and then you also get to go on this deepening journey.
Mm-hmm. And you've been such a good, incredible example of that. I want to say resilience, but it's not, it's like deeper than that. It's that the capability and the belief and trust within yourself that you'll always pick it back up. Like with each of the experiences that you've had, there's been that steadiness, and it's something that I think is the most badass thing possible, of like that steadiness of like, I've got me no matter what, and you figured it out every single step along the way, and now you also get to be held by someone else.
Crazy things.
Yeah. So I got engaged. What's new with you?
You know, just surviving 2 hurricanes, having an identity crisis, evacuating and driving all the way from Florida up to Connecticut, like every other normal person.
So normal and typical.
Yeah, I feel like this whole hurricane process has brought me home, as weird as that is, as my entire home is being, I don't even know. Like Helene, I've just never seen something like that. You see it on the news, and it's like, my home is safe, and I'm so grateful, but my neighbors are not. And it's just devastation everywhere. Nolan's parents, you know, it's like all of this stuff. You're like, everything gone, because people were prepared, what have you. It wasn't even hurricane, it was surge, it was flooding, and then a hurricane comes. So I don't even know what we're coming home to, but it was just so wild to me that we just packed our car and left. And it was like, looking at all my stuff, I was like, I have my mom's stuff and that's all I need, which felt really good, because like, I think my boyfriend makes fun of me about all the time is how bougie I am, and I'm like, I don't really, like you've seen, I brought flip-flops and like just some earrings.
She really doesn't need much.
I don't need much, but like I like convenience of stuff, and I like things, but like I don't need things. And so that was a weird thing to like look at my entire house and all my belongings stacking on a table and be like, maybe you'll be here when I get back, maybe not. And then driving and just seeing like there's no gas, like for hours, not even miles, hours outside, and knowing some people either didn't fill up their tanks so they can't get out. There's people that can't afford it that can't get out. We're getting messages from people, like all this stuff from people that we were helping, because we were helping, you know, evacuate houses and rebuild houses and like this whole process, and people that we couldn't help. And it was just this like, I don't know. And I felt very conflicted on all things and very dysregulated. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
And then to like have to juggle a business, I was like, I'm not doing it. And like for the first time in my life, you have seen me go through COVID, you've seen me go through breakups, you've seen me go through like traumatic familial issues. And I'm like, nah, I'm going to show up like no matter what. And this was the first time that I was like, I can't. Like, I just can't. It does not. I'm in the middle of a launch and all the things. I'm like, I don't have words. Like, I always have words. I always have tenacity. I always have this drive. I always have these things. And it was like, it just doesn't align with my values right now, doing anything. So I just like stopped posting and like couldn't do anything, and had an identity crisis in that aspect. And then finally coming up here and finally like regulating, which I still don't think things have settled yet because I haven't been home yet.
Yeah.
So we've just been very disassociated, which honestly, good way to heal, like for a little bit. I know we have to get home, but and like help our neighbors, and like we're getting the calls for like, I mean, you heard Eddie this morning, like we're still helping from afar, like he's such a giver and wants to help. But like, you know, now moving forward with my business, and I'm so thankful for like the systems and the structures and things, but like I really don't know who I am anymore, because I'm just like, I was stuck in a matrix of like, oh, you have to be loud, you have to be this, you have to push through, and I'm like, that actually doesn't fit my values. Like, I like being in your small little town. Like, I love sleeping till 9. Like, I'm so happy baking homemade pie. Like, I'm just like,
we've been living a very
so
homey life.
It feels so nice. Like, I've never seen Eddie, I mean, never say never, but I have not seen this man this happy outside this current window chopping wood. Literally, he's outside.
And makes fires every day.
Excited. And like, we're so connected, and we were like going through it for a bit, and just, I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure what's going to happen next. I am a little bit anxious actually going back to Tampa, because I don't want to get caught up in it again. I don't. Like, I'm just recognizing because it's so reactive in a city. Like, you have a lot of opportunity, you have a lot of connection, you have a lot of things to do. It's really great for business, it's really great for friendships. It was great for being single. Like, you're meeting people, you're doing things like and I always said this, where I was like, I would never move to a suburb if I'm not in a relationship, because who are you going to meet? Like, what's going to happen in a small town? But the more I'm settling into my life, the more, like, I'm so ready, like, for the ring, for the babies, for the things. Like, I'm just ready for, like, the home life, cooking, baking, like, all of it. And so, yeah, we'll see.
I think
See what happens next.
It's wild how you've been through such, like, on some level, it's like a tornado of an identity shift. And I think, even like us, we experience this here, but you can see on the news, hurricanes and devastation. And now with social media, like, you can see a lot of clips that maybe we didn't have access to before.
Yeah.
And you can hear about it. And even like Nolan's parents' house got destroyed, and we hear it firsthand from them in our family. But I was always, when people are asking us, like, oh, how are they? How's it going? And I'm like, honestly, I'd update them, and I'd be like, but to be completely honest, there's a part of us that feels distant from it because we're not in it every single day. We're not surrounded by our own neighborhood where things are just like strewn everywhere, and that people don't have homes. Like, we're not surrounded by it constantly. So there is still just naturally a part that can disconnect from it. And almost it feels like it just happened in this, like, far off land, which is just so wild and so devastating. And then you hear people's stories and it just hits you even deeper. But like, to go through that, I think, like, I will never be able to necessarily fathom what that fully feels like to go through it. And even though you're safe, like, seeing just the impact on the community around you, and how it was basically like a huge halt to like this pretty, like, I mean, you don't live the fastest paced life. Like, you could be in New York City, but it's like, you're pretty like go. You guys have events. Like, Tampa is very like Tampa entrepreneur. Like, it's a very like specific way of living and going, and then something just puts this huge halt where, hopefully a lot of people, if they desire it, get to kind of restructure and think about like what their true values are. But like, you being in the middle of that, how do you feel like that changed you as a person?
I mean, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
It's like, I can say that here in retrospect, and be, or I guess not in retrospect, away from it.
Yeah.
And I can say, like, oh, I felt my heartbeat again. Like, I really want the slowness again. Like, the slowness for the first time. Like, I have been so doped up on dopamine, and not even dopamine, adrenaline, and just like the hustle of it all, and like wanting to hit these, like, oh, I need to hit 100K months, and I need to do this stuff, and I need to be a millionaire before I'm a mom, and like all this stuff. And I'm like, for what? Like,
when you have that surrounding you, you're like,
when I have I'm like, I make enough money to have a kid now. I'm with the love of my life. I have the best friends in the world. I'm in the best shape of my life.
yeah.
I really do have everything I prayed for a year ago. And it's like, when I go back, will I remember it's enough? Will I remember that there is no fire? Will I remember the heartbeat? And me and one of my friends, Lauren, were already going through this when Helene hit. I remember we just like sat on the couch and we're just like looking at like our friendships and like what we're actually seeking and what we thought we wanted out of like community, and what we really are kind of looking at of just like, no, I really just care about the heartbeat.
Yeah.
Like, that's really all I want, and the rest will follow. I don't really have to push. Like, I can see, at least for myself, I've been pushing my whole life. I love control. I love to go beyond what I currently am comfortable with. And and I don't think that's a bad quality, but I can see that it was for the wrong things.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's wrong. I just think I was missing it. Like, I couldn't feel my heart for the longest time. And I don't know. Like, it's like, I wouldn't have said that I wasn't feeling it, but I wasn't feeling how I did today just looking at the trees, and that to me is enough, and everything I have is enough. And like, anything else is extra. Like, I live such an extra life now that like I'm almost missing. And so really, really looking at, when everything could be gone, like being able to look at my home and just be like, maybe I see you, maybe I won't, not too sure. Really put it in perspective of like, I really don't need much other than my man. And some of my mom's stuff, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, the rest of it is, like, how do I build from there? And, like, the biggest thing now is, like, how to show up online. I guess, like, I'm just kind of looking at, like, I was kind of getting into that copy and paste model of, like, stuff that
what everyone
works.
does.
The Matrix.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, getting high on, like, all this stuff and just kind of jumping in, being like, yeah, 100K months. And it's like, yeah, that's nice. But, like, do I really need that before motherhood? For what? Like, it's not that I don't want it. Do I really need to run the 4-minute mile?
Yeah.
Not really. Like, that'd be cool, but what more can I be known for? And, like, I'm kind of just noticing it within myself, like, what I actually want to be known for is the mom that makes really good food. I'm like, pumpkin pie. We've been cooking up a storm. I'm like,
cooking all night.
This is what it is. And hosting parties and hosting things and having, like, community impact, which I do think comes from a smaller town. Not that, like, Eddie and I, we impact so many lives. Like, that's the thing where, like, there is just so much responsibility with the trajectory of the careers that we have, but the way that it's going or the way that it is, I'm just kind of...
It's in flux. And I think also when you're surrounded by, I mean, you guys were like the first people to jump in and help when after Helene hit people, you know, and like broke so many nails.
My nail tech was not happy with me.
Yeah. But like to go in and to support the people who like actually lost everything, like that's, and to see people also in like traumatized states from that entire experience, really like if it's a huge wake up call to realize like that community matters so freaking much. You know, I think that's something that we always get a glimpse of in a small town. Like something that Nolan and I love about living in a smaller town is that people care about people. Like no matter who it is or what they're going through, people will show up to help and people will like show up to show that they care. And that's something that, you know, you don't always get when you're in the online sphere. Like when I was living in Denver, it didn't always feel that way because it was so transient. There was always people in and out looking for the next best thing, sort of things like that. But then when you're in one of those experiences where it's like you have no choice on some level, like because you have just this beautiful heart that cares, but to stop everything and to go try and help your neighbor, to like help who you can in that moment, like it changes something where you like wake up out of this online go fast-paced matrix and realize like it's like that return to like the true values of what actually matters. Like at the end of the day, if your house is gone, who's actually going to be there? Is like these people who you've built community with. And where do you actually get that, you know, and what actually matters? I mean, that's why when we moved out here, Connecticut will do it to ya. And then Laura's been here for a week and she's also having an identity crisis. It started before. But like when we moved out here, it was a huge thing of like, oh shit, like I actually realize what matters now. And I don't need that much. And like, I don't need to be on this route. Like, yes, it's cool, but you really do disconnect from this whole like matrix, a pyramid of like chasing and for what? Like money gives you choice, money gives you freedom. Those are incredible things. Impact is absolutely amazing. But also when you go to the grocery store, you can impact one person. You know, like when you serve someone, when you smile at someone, you can impact that person. So like, what are you actually doing it for? And I think that's a good question for anyone to ask themselves. I've had clients ask themselves this. They're like, is something wrong? Like, am I broken? Like, what happened? What if I'm not driven by this thing that I once was? But it's a beautiful question to continually be in. That's
what we were just talking about on the walk, right? Like, oh, I know I could do so much, right? Like, I know single Laura.
Yeah.
She could literally, and she did, build an empire. She could do so much. Laura in love, Laura post-hurricane, Laura in a small town. It's just different, and it's not, it's like sitting in that space of like, is one wrong or is one right? And it's like, and I talked about this in my episode, like reflecting on this last year and my birthday and like things like that, where it's just like, truly, it's the softness, like how to be able to find your identity that's outside of like something in my mind. I always compare to the school system, and thankfully I gave no fucks about the school system, but I still compare a lot of things to it, where it's just like, oh, did I get the A? Am I a good student? Did I do my homework? Did my teachers approve of me? Are my parents approving me? Am I still the head basketball player? Am I still doing these things? Like, we're constantly looking for achievement validation versus like, for me, oh, sorry for you guys, I just hit that. For me, it's like, trying to find when I become a mom. Is that enough?
Yeah.
You
Who
know?
are you without everything?
Without even
Like
even outside of
stripping.
motherhood,
Even,
I guess,
yeah,
just
even
like
stripping
simply
that.
just
Like, who are
as I
you?
am right now, if I were to do nothing other than what is passionately on my heart and, you know, creating just to create and doing the things that I'm doing. And we've had this conversation when you were going through
When I was in Connecticut, it'll do
literally,
it.
and then like soon being like, is that enough? And I'm seeing it in my content.
Yeah.
I'm like, sure, there's a strategy and things to what I'm saying.
What do you want to be
like,
known for?
yeah,
Like, what do you actually want to write?
for?
Not like, what are the 5 steps to do that? And sure, it's like good
This
for
is my pathway to
strategy.
get to 100K and and it works. Like that's the thing. Like
It
you love systems and I love strategy, but like what I'm finding is what works is actually because I am authentic, and I was forgetting that.
Yeah.
Because I was getting hung up in this, like,
Yeah.
let's just reuse old copy because this worked and this worked for vitality and this worked for this. We're like, now I'm like, no, here's what I'm doing.
It's kind of
chilling.
Yeah, it's the legacy too. Like, what do you want to be known for, and building a body of work over your lifetime versus just recirculating what's worked in the past.
Yes.
And I think, you know, a big thing that we've talked about is like the future of where we kind of see things going. And for me, once you unplug from this like matrix, let's call it.
Yeah.
That's what we've been calling it. Of like, you know, and I think it's easy, no matter what industry you're in, there's a corner of the internet where everyone's doing the same thing. Like it happens in every single industry. We happen to be in coaching, but it happens in the jewelry industry. It happens in health and fitness.
Coaching industry, different.
Yes.
There's different
sides of it.
And then you look at all of them and you're like, oh my God. Like, and it just happens because none of us know what the fuck we're doing.
Yeah. And so everyone has these like different sides, but then it becomes like the same thing over and over and over. This like race to the top, race to use what works, what trends are going viral, like everything. And I'm not knocking any of it. Like you'll see us still do it because there's a time and place for everything. And sometimes there's a point that you want to get across that will, you know, it works artfully. But when you unplug and you go to a business that maybe doesn't even have a social media presence but is incredibly successful, and you start talking to those people, you start to realize that it's less so, you know, like, sure, you can get rich doing that. But if you want to leave a legacy and build a company that creates true impact, not just in how many views you get and how many people attend your masterclass, but impact because it's passed on for generations. Impact because it actually truly leaves a lasting impact on the community. Those sort of things, it's less so about the like quick hits and more so about building a body of work that you're incredibly proud of, where you can say, yeah, this is who I am, this is what I believe in, and it's constantly evolving versus recycling. And to me, I think that that's it. For some, it might be slower, but it's more sustainable, it's long lasting, and it's something that you also can evolve with as well.
I think that's also the corner of the internet that isn't spoken about enough. Something that is slower but sustainable. And it's something I talk about with my mentor because I'm like, oh, it took so long for me and blah, 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 blah. And she's like, but you actually have something that's sustainable. Like how I built it, you can hold that in motherhood. You can hold it through all the seasons as it has. But I think that's kind of like the corner of the internet that I'm now in because I randomly get high on shit and I mean like high on life, not on anything else. But like I'm like, yeah, and I like get in it and I'm like, you know, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's do it. And then I'm like, I can't see me living that life. Like,
what's that life? Describe it.
Always on, you know, in sacred moments, sharing it. Like just my life isn't online. Like as much as people do feel connected to my online presence and they tell me this all the time, I'm like, you got a clip of me and Eddie sitting by a fire when like there's a whole day that happened beyond that. And it's like, and I love that. And I love that the depth of it is there, but I just don't want to be launching something new all the time. And that's my, like, that's how I get ahead. It's like, can I be okay with 10K months? And like, that'd be okay. Like, can I be okay with, I mean, I say 30K and like, let that be it. Like, do I really need 100K? That's cool if it happens, but do I really need to lose my sanity in the process of chasing that? And I feel like now 10K months has turned into 100K months. Like, you never talk about someone getting to 10K anymore. Now it's the 100K. And I'm like,
When is enough enough?
When is enough enough?
And what do you actually want? Like, are you like, if you have it on your heart, because that's just who you're meant to be in this world, amazing, go for it.
Yeah.
But if that's not necessarily on your heart and you're just saying it to say it, or you're getting high, or you're getting hooked into all the other people who are doing it, you're like, that's amazing. Why are you doing it for you?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a huge reason why, you can do anything, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a moment of pause and of questioning of like, how do you actually want to live? What do you actually want for yourself? And there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
And then creating your life accordingly and building something sustainable for that way of living. And that's,
I also think it's more than money. Like, the more that I'm looking at these things, I'm like, I want to build a community.
Yeah.
Like, I want to build something that's online and off. Like, I want to, it's exactly. Talk about our retreats. Like, it's in person.
Stay tuned.
It's humans. It's things. It's connection. Like, I do think with the rise of AI, like coaching and like programs, I do think that's going to start sinking. I think people want people.
I think it's different.
And so it's like, you really have to get to.
And I also think we want like, more than just Zoom.
And more than Zoom. More than mindset work on Zoom. And it's like, I don't know, like just trying to get ahead. And honestly, I think you've been ahead of the game the whole time. And the way that you have done it, and like, because you do have that, like, you post one thing and it sells out. Like, it's just like, it's just this like slow burn of whenever it feels right, you do it, versus like the high of doing it.
Yeah.
Like,
but I felt like I needed to have the high, like I should have it.
Yeah.
And I think we were talking on our walk today, and I have a cute little way of like making beautiful things that are happening in my life wrong.
Yeah.
Or like finding something that's not good enough about them. And I think for a long time I was like, oh, it should be faster. Even though in everything that I talk about the intersection of fulfillment and success and creating sustainable success over your entire lifetime versus just for this quick rise and quick fall, which I think a lot of people do, because there's no heart behind it. There's just, oh, I'm going to make money, or oh, I'm going to do this because it looks successful, or whatever it might be. And I very quickly, like, there are times where I make that wrong and be like, oh, I should be hooked in. I should want that. And I remember when I first moved to Connecticut, probably like 6 months in, I remember asking one of my mentors at the time, like, oh my God, what happens when I'm not motivated by like what everyone is saying they're motivated by? I mean, everyone has their own reasons. Like, what happens that, like,